This week, you might not have heard, but there is a revolution against the West brewing in Africa right now. And this one man from Burkina Faso is the reason why. Let me introduce you guys to 37-year-old Ibrahim Traore. He is the second youngest head of state in the world right now, and what his supporters say he represents is simple: African independence. Because here's the truth: Africa is the richest continent in the world in terms of resources. From gold, diamonds, and oil to cobalt, lithium, and rare earth materials that power your smartphones, my camera, our electric cars. Yet at the same time, most African countries rank among the poorest in the world. So what's up with that? Well, partly, and remember, there's many reasons for one thing to be true. One of the reasons is that for over a century now, multinational corporations and foreign powers, well, they have been extracting Africa's wealth without building long-term prosperity. A couple of examples for you. Mining contracts often send up to 90% of profits abroad and leaving behind environmental devastation. Foreign companies often win billion-dollar worth infrastructure deals like to build roads, airports, and railways, but then rather hiring locally, they import workers and send profits home. France has even charged former colonies so-called colonial debt and still controls 14 African countries' currencies through their CFA franc. And there is like endless examples of this, and I'm not even talking about the new wave, which is the tech industries. And they are just scooping up all of the lithium and the cobalt to transition to green energy, while the African countries themselves rarely get more than a cut of the raw material price. And this is where Ibrahim Traore comes into the picture. You see, Burkina Faso is a former French colony, and when he rose to power in 2022, he began accusing France of neocolonialism, which in other words is when a country is still kind of trying to control the other, but now through more hush means than just directly. So things like propaganda, government destabilization, coup attempts, assassinations, things like that. So when Traore came into power, he made a whole bunch of major changes. He ordered French troops to leave the country, ending military agreements with them. He banned the use of British and French colonial-style judicial wigs in effort to decolonize their judicial system, although this is largely symbolic since Burkina Faso in particular doesn't necessarily use them. It's more like Kenya, Nigeria. But he's also been making changes far larger than banning wigs. He started cutting ties with foreign companies involved in Burkina Faso's infrastructure development, like roads, airports, like I mentioned before. And now he started replacing them with locally equipped and trained workers, also buying almost 1,000 road building machines for them to use. He's introduced policies to boost local control over food production and processing. He's pushing for greater state control over their own energy, particularly electricity, so they reduce dependence on foreign suppliers and improved access. And then, this is probably the clearest statement to the West yet, he's been buying back a number of the country's major gold mines. And buying back being the key word because they were previously owned by foreign entities. And the thing is, he didn't just take it back with force, with military control, he bought it. He paid $80 million for 2 of the country's gold mines. He called the purchases a reclaiming of national wealth from exploitative foreign ownership. But the story gets crazier, right? Of course it does, because what started in Burkina Faso is now become something much bigger. They have now joined forces with Mali and Niger to form the Alliance of Sahel states, basically saying, we've got each other's backs and we're all done with Western influence. Niger themselves ended an agreement with the US that allows the US troops to operate in their country. Ivory Coast and Senegal are now also pushing to remove foreign military bases. And a former Nigerian senator described Traore's actions as the spirit of a continent yearning to be free, dignified, and prosperous. And I think that is exactly why we are seeing it slowly transition from one country in Africa into Africa as a whole. Because a major question that many of these countries are still asking